We're back with another one, Fight the Fear podcast. I'm your host, Brett, and this is my buddy Jeff sitting in with me.
Hello.
What's up? So this season, we started talking about serial killers that had, by circumstance or habit, passed through our home state of Indiana.
Right.
It was either their home base or part of their spree.
Or just a good dumping ground.
And let me tell you, dude, I unearthed like Pandora's box because I didn't realize there was 26 or 29 pages
Wow.
of a list of people that have been through our state doing this. So I was like, oh my gosh. Some fallout from the first episode was obviously because we talked about that Baumeister, the I-70 stuff. Of course, what do you think was popping up in my searches? More info on that. I did not know that there were several suspects who had committed several murders. And another thing that I think is important to mention when you're talking about serial killers is it's kind of like the drunk driver who gets pulled over and says, I only had two. This is my first time.
Right.
The odds of that being their first time driving drunk is, and I'm not trying to say that they're like each other, but it's like crimes. You get caught is usually not the first time you did it, you know?
Sure.
So they said like the majority of serial killers might admit or remember 30, but the likelihood is that the number is closer to 100 sometimes.
Yeah, you never know.
Some of these guys are every year, every 5 years, every 2 years, every 6 months, every 6 weeks. They have these weird patterns, and that's usually how they get caught because the pattern gets picked up on that, and that helps investigators catch others, down the road. Right. I think we saw that with Baumeister. He was kind of like a summer to fall thing, and then he would like be quiet for like a year, and then it was like he couldn't do it anymore.
It's a fair weather killer.
Yeah. But before that, I wanted to say
hello, motherfuckers,
to everybody out there listening.
Yeah, hello. I think that sometimes they're like, you've only got information on these, so I'm not going to say anything else. But then you got the ones that want to claim responsibility for ones they didn't even do, just because that may give them more street cred, notoriety, prison cred, whatever.
Yeah, and I don't understand that either, where you've had pretty high-profile cases with like where a guy goes in and says, I did it, and they want to like go to prison and stuff, and they want to go through maybe they don't understand that that's what's going to happen, and they just want to go through the process of sitting with the cops and like playing coy or something. Like, is it a power trip thing? I don't know. That's a weird
the ones that haven't done anything but say they do.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they have to go and figure all this evidence out to come back and say, you didn't even do any of this. Get the hell out of here. Why would you waste the time? That's so weird. Like, why would you even want to be in that?
I have no idea. Maybe they have absolutely nothing going on in their life, and this is a bit of attention. Bad attention, but any attention, I guess, is better than none.
And then you have the ones like Ted Bundy. When he got caught, he talked in detail about what he did. Jeffrey Dahmer, detail about what he did. It was like a relief, and they were just calm. It's crazy when you listen to those interviews and stuff. They're very calm. Like, oh yeah, that was on. No, that was in June that year. Yeah. Here's what I did.
Maybe a little bit of bravado, a little bragging. But also, a lot of those guys just think they're so smart, and they want to show how smart they are.
Right. Sense of relief. It's over. Here's what I did, and you didn't catch me because
there's some
I let
of that
you catch me or whatever. I'm into Stephen King books. Always have been for decades now, and he does this thing at the beginning of his books where he'll tell you, if you want to be a writer, you have to write. You have to read. Yeah, and here's guys that I read. And he would suggest other writers. Dean R. Koontz is one. James Patterson is another one. James Patterson wrote the Alex Cross series of books where he had Kiss the Girls with Morgan Freeman. There's a series they're doing right now on Amazon Prime called Cross. So now I'm getting all these visions mixed up in my head talking about serial killers and crime dramas and horror all mixing up in my head and having these dreams. And I have this recurring dream that I should write this. Nobody, hey, this is just between us. Nobody write this down. Nobody steal my idea.
Copyright right here.
Copyright.
Called it.
This is what you're about to hear is amazing. A lot of times when you have dreams and it's like kind of like a movie and you can remember it, it's like you see yourself in it, but maybe it's like you're third person watching yourself or watching the main character, I guess. It's the only way I can put it.
Okay.
Or it's like you're watching it, but you're really up close on it. So in this recurring dream, I don't think it's me. I think it's like a detective, and he's trying to find a killer. And he wakes up one day. Well, first of all, let me give you I even have enough like his background and stuff. Like he drinks heavily. He just passes out most of the time. He's got a family that's broken. He's by himself, single, isolated, beat up apartment. And he wakes up one day and his ear has stitches on it and a piece of his ear's missing. And he's thinking, what the hell did I do? He's thinking he drank himself into a stupor and ended up in the emergency room. He's trying to figure out what happened. Meanwhile, he's on this case and doesn't think anything of it. You flash forward in the timeline, I don't know, 6 months or a year, something. Somehow I knew there was some time had passed.
Right.
And he wakes up and the piece of ear is back.
Okay.
Like surgically put back and like pristine. And then as you can guess already where this is going, he wakes up again another time and no memory of any events and his hand's missing.
Wow.
Okay. And now it's like he's like a feeling of powerlessness. So I'm feeling these feelings like I'm seeing. It's like, oh my God, I woke up and someone took my hand. I'm like freaking the F out in my sleep or whatever. And like, it's waking me up. Then there's another time the hand's back. And it's like, whoever's doing it is like this groundbreaking surgical maestro. But then they start keeping the pieces. Now he's got no arm. Now he's got a foot missing. Now he's got the ear missing again and all this. And he can't figure out how they keep getting him. He's like, I'm around people. I know what's going on. Somehow I get Bill Cosby barbecue sauce drink or whatever, and I wake up with a piece missing, and now he's got to solve who the hell that is. And that's as far as I got in the dreams, but this is like recurring, man.
Really? Just
one dream it's like
theme.
The ear, one dream it's like his nose or his a piece of skin from his arm or cheek or leg. It's just so weird.
So the pieces are missing, then they come back, and now they're
sometimes
not
they
back.
come back and then sometimes they don't. Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, could that be a movie or what?
It's hard to do detective work when you're missing so much stuff.
Yeah.
Not only are you solving other cases, but now you got to solve your own.
Yeah. What did I do to piss somebody off enough that they want to chop me up?
Right.
And it's kind of like, what was that movie? Was it Seven?
Okay.
Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman.
7 Deadly Sins, yeah.
And he kept taking pieces of people and took off his fingerprints. And there was like the person on the bed whose like organs were all jacked up and all that craziness. And then, what's in the box?
Yeah, don't open the box.
Yeah, don't open the box.
Never open the box.
So I was having some crazy dreams like that. I'm like, damn, I need to like start writing or something. But
yeah, that's a good start right there.
Coming back to our list, it's quite the list, and it's a lot more than I thought. The next name on the list was Rudy Bladel. I'm going to say Bladel. It's like Bladel.
I was thinking Bladel. But
Bladel.
Yep.
All right. So this cat was born in 1932 and he died in 2006. He was known as the Railway Killer. Was an American serial killer who committed the murders of 7 railway employees in the Rust Belt region from 1963 to 1978, but only convicted of 3 of them, which I don't understand, but we'll get into that. Bladel.
Yeah, there you go.
Bladel was sentenced to life imprisonment and later died from thyroid cancer in 2006. A fitting end for somebody like this.
Natural end.
This is one of those cases where it's kind of like it could be mental issues for sure. He was born into a family of railroad workers. He had a half brother. They lived in Chicago. His father's name was Holgar.
Don't hear that often.
So I'm guessing maybe Dutch or something. He worked for the Chicago, Rock Island, and Pacific Railroad Company. Bladel grew up on 67th Street and Ashland Avenue, studying at the vocational high school on the south side, where he took automotive shop courses. After graduating in 1951, he went to work at Rock Island as a fireman. So he's a fireman for the railroad.
Okay.
He's doing that for a while. He ends up enlisting in the Army as a military engineer to serve in the Korean War. Bladel later claimed that when he went under a routine checkup in the military that he scored an IQ of 145. So that goes with what you were saying. These guys, they think that their intelligence is going to get them out of something.
Right,
maybe.
right. Smarter than the cops.
While he was in South Korea, he would steal locomotives in a roundhouse, and sometimes enemies would fire at him while he was jerking around with trains. Shortly after returning from Korea, Bladel got in a motorcycle accident, and the injuries caused him to have a specific posture or way that he walked, a weird gait.
Okay, little limp or
like a weird limp, like only not too many people are going to have. So
distinctive.
So, despite all that, he went back to work at the railroad. He actually went up in the ranks. So this was between 1951 and 1959. So by 1959, he had gone up in the ranks, and the New York Central Railroad shifted its operations away from Niles, Michigan, to a new yard. Guess where? Elkhart, Indiana.
Nice.
So in addition, most of the employees would be locals, leaving the previous ones from Michigan, among whom was Bladel. Let's just call him Blade.
Yeah.
Bladel, with a lower rank job, or they were just laid off. So this pissed him off. He didn't want to take a pay cut. And the railroad, it was his entire life since he was a kid, other than when he went to the military and stuff and to school. Mm-hmm. So he decided to take revenge on the union, the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Firemen. He felt like they sold him out. Now, this is where we see patterns start to appear, and it's really wild. So that was 1959. So 60, 61, 62. So 4 years later, 1963, in a Hammond, Indiana rail yard, after failing to receive a return signal from his colleagues in the locomotive cab, signalman Virgil Terry decided to investigate. He climbed on the engine and noticed that engineer Roy Bottorff and Paul Overstreet, the fireman, were dead, laying on the controls.
Wow.
Both had been shot in the back of the head, with several .22 caliber shell casings being located at the scene. Terry called the police, and they investigated, but no suspects were found in the murder. The only clue they had was from a witness who heard a motorcycle leaving the crime scene. At the time of the slayings, Bladel was living alone in a trailer in Blue Island, Illinois, and drove around with a motorcycle.
Ding, ding, ding.
So the clues are mounting.
And he didn't have a revolver. He had a semi-automatic because he left shell casings then.
So now we go forward to 1968, 5 years later. Bladel struck again in August. So now that first one was August. This one's August. 51-year-old engineer John Marshall from Niles. Marshall was standing next to his diesel locomotive at the Elkhart, Indiana rail yard when he was struck at close range with 12-gauge shotgun blast to the midsection, the sides, and twice in the head. This time, though, there were eyewitnesses, but they could only describe the killer by his build and strange walk.
Uh-oh, there it goes.
Yeah. Now, so that's 68. So that was 5 years. So March of 71, so 69, 70. So that's 3 years. Now he's jumping around a little bit. He'll get back on track, though. No pun intended. In March of 71, there was another shooting at the Elkhart, Indiana yard. Engineer Louis Sane from New Buffalo, Michigan, was shot in the back twice with a .357. But unlike the previous victims, Sane survived and wrestled the gun from his assailant's hand and fired in retaliation, wounding the attacker in the stomach.
Wow, badass.
Both men were taken to the emergency room, and Sane recognized the attacker. It was one of his old workmates, Rudy Bladel.
Imagine that.
I know you.
Hello, motherfucker.
Hell yeah.
Don't we work together?
He says he inquired about his reasoning with Bladel, and he said, quote, that he wanted to get the Niles men out of Elkhart. Because that's where the train yard had moved or whatever.
Yep.
Now, that was in March. All the way at the end of the year, on December 31st, 1971, Bladel was sentenced to 1 to 5 years imprisonment at the Indiana State Prison in Michigan City for attempted murder, and he was released after serving 18 months.
That seems very short.
Now we get back on track. 5 years later, April of 76, another victim was claimed at the same Elkhart yard, 51-year-old engineer James M. Tiny McCrory from Niles. He had been shot in the head with a deer slug from a 20-gauge shotgun while sitting in his locomotive, which was parked near the diesel house. 2 years after this, Bladel was arrested by ATF authorities on January 6, 1978, after local police notified them he had purchased a .357 Magnum from South Bend, Indiana. Since he was a convicted felon, he was not allowed to carry firearms, and he was given another 1 to 5 year imprisonment term, this time to be served in a federal penitentiary in Sandstone, Minnesota. He was released on November 16th of the same year.
Wow, that was short.
Dudes are
1
not
to 5?
not getting no time, man.
No. Good behavior, I guess.
So now comes the triple murder, which I believe is why they put him away. So let's go through this. So now we're at, let's see. So that was April of 76 when he killed the engineer. January of 78 when they arrested him, put him away. He gets back out a day before New Year's Eve in 1978. So this is barely 2 years after the first killing where the guy was shot with the slug.
Right.
He booked himself into a local hotel in Jackson, Michigan. In a suitcase, he carried parts of a 12-gauge shotgun that he purchased from an Elkhart, Indiana gun shop 2 years earlier. In 76, when he got arrested, or sorry, they arrested him in 78, but in 76, he had gotten arrested for the gun possession. So
just keeping him for a
the
rainy
background
day.
checks ain't doing so hot. The following day, he left the hotel, went down to the depot carrying the suitcase with him. When he arrived at the platform, he put the suitcase down, assembled the shotgun, and walked towards the locker room door. There he shot 42-year-old flagman Robert Lee Blake from Southgate on the spot before proceeding to also shoot 50-year-old conductor William Gulak from Lincoln Park, who was sitting at the table. Bladel put another slug into each of them and headed for the door. As he was going out, he saw 32-year-old fireman Charles Lee from Burton. 32-year-old fireman Charles Lee Burton from Jackson, peeking into the room. He then killed him as well. The shot knocked Burton back onto the platform behind him. After leaving, Bladel disassembled the shotgun and hid it under some bushes at Cascade Falls. So I looked up Cascade Falls. That's a park in Jackson, Michigan. That has like a man-made waterfall. So I didn't even know it was there. I'm like, I went to check this out. Where was I at here? He then returned to Elkhart, Indiana, where he was living at a mission for homeless men.
So did he get off the whole Niles kick because these other guys are from different areas? They're not.
Well, he wanted to get rid of the Niles men because they moved their headquarters around. What did they say earlier when they moved from Illinois to Niles, Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
So he must have worked long enough to know a lot of these guys. And I mean, you figure in the 70s, a job like the railway is going to pay good. You're not leaving that job.
Right.
You're staying there. You're staying for your 30 and out or whatever it is. So that was the three guys at once, and I believe this is what tipped everything off. The Jackson murders startled the authorities. They quickly connected them to the previous murders of the railroad workers. At the time, Bladel was questioned, but released after 2 days for lack of evidence. In search of clues, scuba divers were deployed into the Grand River and helicopters scoured rooftops for the murder weapon. They even contacted psychics to no avail. 3 months later, the shotgun parts hidden in Cascade Falls were located, and ejection marks from spent shell casings proved that it was the murder weapon. The shotgun itself was then traced back to Bladel through its serial number, who by then had been reconsidered as a suspect. When his 1971 attempted murder conviction was discovered, who's doing the research on this guy?
It's before computers and internet.
Yeah, but it's like... So on March 22nd, 1979, charges were filed against Bladel. He was arrested at the Mission that same afternoon. He initially confessed to those Jackson murders, explaining in detail what happened, but later recanted his statement, claiming he had been coerced by police. He additionally explained that he had gone to Jackson so he could retrieve his broken motorbike, and when it came to visiting the depot, he had only gone there to wash his hands.
Sure, you got to get that motorcycle.
Wash your hands of your coworkers. As for the shotgun, he claimed it was his, but he sold it to a stranger in Elkhart, Indiana, several weeks before the murders.
Because I'm not allowed to have one.
The evidence to the contrary was enough, and he was convicted for the murders, receiving a sentence of life imprisonment. And I'm shocked that they couldn't tag on the other killings and then even like the aggravated charges from when he went to prison because they knew that he shot somebody on a rail yard. It's insane that he was getting away with that stuff.
Habitual.
We're just going to put you away for a year. No problem. You'll be out by Christmas.
And the other one was less than a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just insane that they, such light sentences, shoot somebody in the back with a .357, and then you get 1 to 5 and out in a year.
Yeah. So get this. So now he goes to prison. He got a sentence of life. This was in March of 79. And I believe at that time, Indiana still had the death penalty. Because I remember we had the electric chair at the Indiana State, 81 or something like that.
Old Sparky.
Yeah. So that was in 79. He got life. However, in 1986, the Supreme Court ruled that his case should be retried, as jurors considered his written confession had been obtained through illegal means. Even without the confession, the jury convicted him a second time, and he was again given a life sentence. They said it was one of the costliest cases prosecuted in Jackson County. When they argued to even redo this, it was overruled. For some reason, there was another case in Louisiana, and they had to retry all these different cases. Finally, on November 15th, 2006, Bladel died from thyroid cancer at the Henry Ford Allegiance Health Hospital in Jackson, Michigan. Damn near the very place that he didn't want to be around,
Right.
Gosh, Elkhart, right in our backyard,
Right. Elkhart, Hammond, yeah.
Between 63 and 78, 7 victims, convicted of only 3, though. Apprehended in March of 79, the Railway Killer.
I suppose if you, get a life sentence, you'd like to have justice for those other gentlemen, but
that's my point. Yeah.
Why go through the whole cost of the trial and everything?
So, born in 1932, he went in what did I say, 79?
Yeah.
So in his 40s, and died at the age of 73. So it's like he had a nice run.
Yeah, spent nearly half of his life in prison.
It's probably the fun half.
I just wonder if maybe, if he carried that grudge the entire time, or he just liked killing people after a while. Just found it enjoyable. I don't know.
And that's kind of what we talked about last time, was there's these urges or these synapses in your brain that pop off like a heroin addict, and you get this high from it, and you're chasing it. You want that sensation again. I couldn't imagine, putting a deer slug in somebody from behind them.
That's got to be very grisly. And a shotgun, to say the least, does a lot of damage. So Can't imagine.
Well, the first ones that he did with the 22. So they don't go as far as to say he did that, but it kind of fits the MO. You know, he's pissed off. That was the rail yard that he would have had to take the pay cut and the lower position, and it said he had worked himself up, and now he's got to, you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah, and if those guys have the same Niles tie to them, they all came from
another yard.
Yeah, from another yard.
He's feeling like they pushed him down.
Right, makes sense.
I mean, I guess I'm more of a survivalist, so if you tell me you can keep your job, but it's going to be, you know, less pay and this and that, okay, I'm going to have to keep that job, keep the lights on until I can find something better or figure something out at that place. I just always try to look for a way out of it. He wasn't looking for a way out of it. He was looking for a way through it. He wanted to just destroy it. He's pissed off.
Get people out of his way so that he
can get the job back, right? But there's so much more to talk about. We're definitely going to get there. I'm not going to shill it, but if you want to see the video episodes, get over there on Patreon. And also maybe we'll throw the hotline out there at some point and try to get some people talking to us.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Maybe they had some wild dreams.
Maybe we'll get an actual serial killer
to call in. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody.